I woke up to an empty bed and the sound of Lila's phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. She'd left it behind in her rush to get to her early morning yoga class, something she'd started 3 weeks ago with religious dedication that would have impressed a saint. The phone buzzed again. Then again. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm not ashamed either. When your wife starts acting like a stranger in your own house, you pay attention to the details. The phone was face up, notifications bleeding across the screen like accusations. Eric. Can't wait for our coffee date. Same place? Eric. Tell me you're wearing that blue dress I like. Eric. My wife thinks I'm at a client meeting. We have all morning. Coffee. Right. My hands were steady as I scrolled through their message thread. 3 months of messages, 3 months of coffee dates and business meetings and just grabbing lunch with a colleague. The timestamps told the real story. Every Tuesday and Thursday, right during my conference calls when I was locked in my home office. I took screenshots, every single message. The explicit ones made my stomach turn, but I saved those too, especially those. Then I did something that felt both childish and brilliant. I replied to Eric's last message. Ask Eric if his wife Karen liked the photos you sent last week. Owen. I set the phone back exactly where I found it and made coffee, real coffee, black. None of that fancy stuff Lila had been buying lately. The expensive beans she claimed were for special occasions. 20 minutes later, my phone exploded. Lila. What did you do, Lila? Owen, answer me right now, Lila. How dare you go through my phone, Lila? You have no right, Lila. I'm coming home. I sipped my coffee and watched the messages pile up. 12 in total, each one more frantic than the last, each one confirming what I already knew. When she burst through the front door, her yoga outfit was pristine, not a drop of sweat. Her hair was perfect, her makeup fresh. She'd been somewhere all right, just not downward dogging. How could you violate my privacy like that? She demanded, snatching her phone from the counter. I leaned against the kitchen island, coffee mug in hand, and gave her my best puzzled look. Violate your privacy? Honey, your phone was buzzing like a smoke alarm. I thought it might be an emergency. You had no right to read my messages. Messages about coffee? I tilted my head. Seemed pretty innocent to me. Though I have to say, Eric has some interesting ideas about what constitutes a business meeting. Her face went through a rainbow of expressions. Panic, anger, calculation, then back to anger. She was trying to figure out how much I knew, how much I'd seen. It's not what you think, she said finally. What do I think? Owen, please. You're being paranoid. Eric is helping me with some career development. The messages, he's very supportive. I nodded slowly. Supportive. That's one word for it. You're twisting everything, making something innocent sound sordid because you're insecure about my success. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. And there it was, the pivot, the way she could take any situation and make it my fault, my insecurity, my jealousy, my problem. But this time, I just smiled. You're right, I said. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions. The relief on her face was almost comical. She actually thought she'd won, that her usual manipulation had worked its magic. Eric is married, Owen. Happily married. The idea that we'd be anything other than professional colleagues is ridiculous. Of course, I agreed. Absolutely ridiculous. She kissed my cheek, her lips cold against my skin. I have to get ready for work. We'll talk more tonight, okay? Clear all this up. I watched her walk upstairs, her phone already in her hand, probably sending damage control messages to Eric, probably crafting some story about her paranoid husband and his wild accusations. But I wasn't paranoid, and I wasn't insecure. I was just getting started. My home office had always been my sanctuary, but that morning it became my war room. I spread the printed screenshots across my desk like a general planning a campaign. 3 months of evidence, 3 months of lies, 3 months of coffee dates while I worked 60-hour weeks to pay for the house she was using as a hotel. The first call I made was to my old boxing coach, Tommy. Not because I planned to hurt anyone, I'm not that guy, but because Tommy knew things, street things, practical things about how people really worked. Owen Harper, Tommy's gravelly voice came through the phone. Haven't heard from you since Christmas. What's eating you, kid? I told him. Everything. Tommy listened without interrupting, which was his way. So what do you want from me? He asked when I finished. Advice. You've seen every kind of person come through your gym, the fakers, the real deals, the ones who talk big but fold when things get serious. Your wife's boyfriend. What's his story? Motivational speaker, business coach, drives a BMW, wears suits that cost more than most people's rent. Tommy snorted. Soft hands? Probably. They always fold first. But you don't want to get physical, right? You're smarter than that. I'm smarter than that. Good. So you hit them where it hurts. Their image, their reputation. These types, they live for how other people see them. Take that away, and they crumble. After I hung up with Tommy, I did some research. Eric Stowe, master life coach. His website was a masterpiece of corporate nonsense. Stock photos of him in expensive suits, testimonials that read like they were written by the same person, and a bio that mentioned his loving wife Karen and their commitment to helping others achieve their relationship goals. The irony was so thick, I could spread it on toast. I found Karen's social media profiles. She seemed nice, normal. She posted pictures of their dog, their garden, their anniversary dinners. In every photo with Eric, she looked genuinely happy. The kind of happiness that comes from trusting someone completely. That made what I had to do easier. I created an anonymous email account and sent Karen a simple message. I think you should know what your husband has been doing during his Tuesday and Thursday client meetings. The attached screenshots speak for themselves. I'm sorry you have to see this, but you deserve the truth. I attached 5 of the most damning screenshots and hit send. Then I waited. Lila came home that evening with flowers and takeout from my favorite restaurant. She was trying too hard, which told me Eric had filled her in on the morning's panic. I thought we could have a nice dinner, she said, arranging the flowers in a vase. Talk about us, about trust. That sounds great, I said, helping her set the table. Trust is important in a marriage. She launched into a speech about communication and understanding and how couples needed to give each other space to grow. I nodded at all the right moments, made agreeable sounds, and watched her perform. My phone buzzed during dessert. A text from an unknown number. This is Karen Stowe. We need to talk. I excused myself to the bathroom and replied, Tomorrow. The coffee shop on Main Street. 2 p.m. When I came back, Lila was cleaning up, humming softly. She seemed relaxed, happy even, like she'd successfully managed another crisis. I'm glad we talked, she said, kissing me goodnight. I love you, Owen. I love you too, I replied. And the strange thing was, part of me meant it. I loved the woman I'd married 5 years ago. The woman who used to laugh at my jokes and steal my hoodies and make pancakes on Sunday mornings. But that woman was gone. In her place was this stranger who lied as easily as breathing, who could look me in the eye and talk about trust while planning her next betrayal. That woman I was going to destroy. Karen Stowe looked exactly like her photos. Mid-30s, brown hair, kind eyes that were currently red from crying. She was already seated when I arrived at the coffee shop, clutching a tissue and staring at her phone. Owen? She asked as I approached her table. I nodded and sat down. Thank you for meeting me. Thank you for telling me. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the effort it took. How long have you known? I found out yesterday morning. You? I suspected something was wrong a few months ago. Eric started working late, taking more client meetings. He's been distant, distracted, but I trusted him. She laughed bitterly. Stupid, right? Not stupid. Human. We sat in silence for a moment. Around us, the coffee shop buzzed with normal people living normal lives, unaware that 2 marriages were imploding at table 7. What are you going to do? Karen asked. I'm not sure yet. You? She pulled out her phone and showed me the screen. Screenshots. Lots of them. I've been busy since last night. Eric isn't just cheating with your wife. There are at least 3 other women. Maybe more. My stomach dropped. 3 others? His assistant, a client, some woman from his gym. Karen's voice was getting stronger, anger replacing hurt. Your wife isn't special, Owen. She's just another conquest. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. I want him to pay, Karen continued. Not just for cheating, for making me feel crazy these past months, for lying to my face every single day, for making me doubt myself. What did you have in mind? His business depends on his reputation, happy marriage, successful relationships, helping others achieve their dreams. What happens when people find out the truth? I was starting to like Karen Stowe. We spent the next hour planning. Karen had access to Eric's business contacts, his client list, his social media accounts. I had the screenshots that proved everything. Together, we could do serious damage. But we had to be smart about it. Methodical. One wrong move, and we'd look like the vindictive exes instead of the wronged spouses. There's a business networking event next Friday, Karen said. Eric's speaking. Maintaining trust in professional relationships. Can you believe that? Perfect timing. What about your wife? Lila's trickier. She's good at spinning narratives, making herself the victim. But she has weaknesses. Such as? Her job, her reputation, her best friend Chloe, who loves drama but hates being embarrassed. Karen smiled for the first time since I'd met her. This is going to be fun. That evening, I put the first part of my plan into action. Lila was in the shower when I used her laptop to send an email to her boss, Mr. Dorsey. The subject line was confidential concern, and the message was simple. Mr. Dorsey, I'm writing to inform you that one of your employees may be using company resources for personal matters. I've attached some concerning communications that suggest unprofessional conduct during business hours. I thought you should be aware. A concerned client. I attached screenshots of Lila's messages with Eric, carefully chosen to show the timing, all sent during work hours, some from her company email address. Then I forwarded the same screenshots to Chloe with a note. Thought you'd want to know what your best friend has been up to. Might want to ask her about Eric before you hear it from someone else. Chloe responded within minutes. OMG, is this real? I'm calling her right now. I deleted the sent messages and closed the laptop just as Lila emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in a towel. Good shower? I asked innocently. Perfect, she said, then frowned as her phone started ringing. It's Chloe. Probably some drama with her latest boyfriend. She answered the call with a bright, "Hey girl," that quickly shifted to confusion, then panic. What? No, that's... Chloe, slow down. What screenshots? I pretended to read my book while she paced the bedroom, her voice getting higher and more frantic. Someone sent you what? That's impossible. Eric and I are just... No, you don't understand. The call lasted 20 minutes. When it ended, Lila looked pale and shaken. Everything okay? I asked. Fine, just... Chloe heard some ridiculous rumor about me. People love to gossip. What kind of rumor? Nothing important. You know how these things get twisted. But I could see the wheels turning in her head. Someone knew. Someone had evidence. Someone was targeting her. She was right to be scared. The next morning brought the first real counterattack. I was in my office when my work phone rang. Owen, it's Jim, my boss said without preamble. We need to talk, now. My stomach clenched. What's wrong? Someone sent an email claiming you've been accessing client files inappropriately, using company resources for personal investigations. There are some serious accusations here. I closed my eyes. Lila was fighting back. Jim, I can explain everything. Someone's trying to sabotage me. I have proof. Get to the office. We'll sort this out. The drive downtown gave me time to think. Lila had played her hand too early, too desperately. She'd tried to destroy my career based on paranoia and panic, not evidence. That was her first mistake. I spent 2 hours in Jim's office, explaining the situation with careful professionalism. I showed him the screenshots I'd found on Lila's phone, the timeline of events, the suspicious timing of the accusations against me. So your wife is cheating, and now she's trying to get you fired? Jim summarized. That's what it looks like. Jim was quiet for a long moment. He'd known me for 8 years. He'd seen my work, my ethics, my dedication. The email came from an anonymous account, he said finally. No proof, just accusations, and frankly, it reads like someone having an emotional breakdown. What do you want me to do? Take a few personal days. Get your house in order. When you come back, we'll pretend this never happened. Thanks, Jim. I owe you. You don't owe me anything. Just handle this quietly, okay? Whatever you're planning. He knew me well. The extra time turned out to be a gift. I spent the afternoon following Eric's routine, learning his patterns. He worked out at an upscale gym downtown, ate lunch at the same bistro every day, drove his BMW like it was a religious artifact. At 3 p.m., I watched him park in the gym's lot and stride inside like he owned the place. The car was beautiful, midnight blue, pristine, probably worth more than most people made in a year. I walked over and admired it for a moment. Then I took out my keys. I didn't key the whole car. That would have been crude, obvious. Instead, I carved one word into the driver's side door, right where he'd see it every time he got in. Liar. Then I waited. Eric emerged 40 minutes later, gym bag slung over his shoulder, probably feeling great about himself. He was halfway to his car when he saw it. The sound he made wasn't quite a scream, but it was close. He spun around, looking for witnesses, for cameras, for whoever had dared to touch his precious car. But the lot was empty, except for me, sitting in my truck 50 yards away, watching through binoculars. His phone came out immediately, probably calling Lila, probably panicking about escalation and consequences and how this was all getting out of hand. Good. Panic was the point. That evening, Karen called with an update. Eric came home furious, she said. Someone vandalized his car. He's convinced it was you. What makes him think that? He's not stupid, Owen. Paranoid and guilty, but not stupid. He knows you know. What did you tell him? That I hoped whoever did it would do it again. He didn't appreciate that. I laughed, despite everything. How are you holding up? Better than I expected. Anger is a wonderful motivator. Speaking of which, I have news about Friday's networking event. Good news? The best. I've been in touch with some of Eric's biggest clients. Turns out several of them have been having doubts about his methods. Apparently his advice hasn't been working out as promised. Meaning they're already primed to hear bad news about Eric Stowe. All they need is a little push. We talked for another 20 minutes, refining our plan for Friday. By the time I hung up, I was feeling optimistic for the first time in days. Then Lila came home. She was different, harder. The mask of the loving wife had slipped, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. We need to talk, she said without preamble. Okay. I know what you're doing, Owen. The games, the messages, the harassment. It needs to stop. I'm not sure what you mean. Don't. Her voice was sharp. Don't pretend. Don't lie. We're past that now. I studied her face. This was the real Lila, the one who'd been planning and scheming for months, the one who'd looked me in the eye every morning and lied about yoga classes and coffee dates. You're right, I said. We are past that. Good. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop whatever this is. You're going to leave Eric alone, and we're going to work out our problems like adults. And if I don't, her smile was cold, then things get ugly. And trust me, Owen, I'm much better at ugly than you are. She was wrong about that, but she'd find out soon enough. Friday arrived with unseasonable warmth and crystal clear skies. Perfect weather for watching someone's world collapse. The networking event was held at the downtown hotel in a conference room that probably cost more per hour than most people made in a week. Eric's presentation was scheduled for 2 p.m., right after lunch, when everyone would be alert and engaged. Karen and I arrived separately. She sat near the back, looking like any other attendee. I positioned myself by the coffee station, where I could see everything but remain inconspicuous. Eric took the stage at exactly 2 p.m., looking confident in his expensive suit. His presentation slides were slick and professional. Maintaining trust in professional relationships, the foundation of success. The irony was so perfect it felt scripted. For the first 10 minutes, everything went normally. Eric talked about communication, integrity, and the importance of transparency in business dealings. The audience nodded along, taking notes. Then Karen raised her hand. Mr. Stowe, she said in a clear, carrying voice. I have a question about transparency. Eric smiled, not recognizing her from the audience. Of course. What would you like to know? How do you reconcile your advice about honesty with your own behavior? Specifically, how you've been lying to your wife for months about your affairs with multiple women? The room went silent. Eric's face cycled through confusion, recognition, and panic in the space of 3 seconds. I'm sorry. I don't understand the question, he managed. Karen stood up, holding her phone. I'm Karen Stowe, Eric's wife, and I have documentation of his affairs with at least 4 different women, including explicit messages sent during business hours to married clients. The audience was riveted. This was better than any presentation they'd ever seen. Eric tried to regain control. This is obviously a personal matter that doesn't belong in a professional setting. Doesn't it? Karen interrupted. You built your business on your marriage, your happy relationship, your expertise in trust and communication. What happens when people find out it's all a lie? That's when I stepped forward. I can answer that, I said, walking to the front of the room. I'm Owen Harper. My wife has been having an affair with Mr. Stowe for 3 months. Here's what happens when people find out. I connected my phone to the presentation system. Eric's slides disappeared, replaced by screenshots of his messages with Lila, then messages with his assistant, then messages with 2 other women. The audience gasped. Someone started recording with their phone. Eric tried to leave the stage, but Karen blocked one exit while I blocked the other. The foundation of success, I said, reading from his own slide, is trust. But what do you do when that foundation is built on lies? You rebuild, Karen added, with honesty, with consequences, with accountability. Eric finally found his voice. This is harassment. This is illegal. I'm calling security. Please do, I said. I'm sure they'd love to hear about how you've been using company resources to arrange affairs with married women, how you've been billing clients for hours spent sending explicit messages, how you've built your entire business on a foundation of deception. The room erupted in whispers and conversations. Phones came out. Photos were taken. Eric's reputation was dissolving in real time. He pushed past me and fled the room, leaving behind his presentation materials, his dignity, and his career. Karen and I followed at a leisurely pace. In the hallway, we found Eric frantically calling someone on his phone. "Lila?" I called out. "Is he calling Lila?" Eric spun around, his face flushed and desperate. "This isn't over," he snarled. "You're right," Karen said calmly. "It's not. I've already sent copies of everything to your business partners, your clients, and your professional associations. By Monday, everyone in your industry will know exactly who Eric Stowe really is." "And Lila," I added. "Her boss got a very detailed email this morning, complete with timestamps showing how she's been conducting her affair during work hours, using company equipment. I imagine that conversation will be interesting." Eric's phone buzzed. He looked at it and went pale. "What's wrong?" Karen asked sweetly. "Bad news?" He didn't answer. He just walked away, shoulders slumped, looking like a man who'd lost everything in the span of 30 minutes, which, of course, he had. I drove home in a strange mood, part satisfaction, part emptiness. The plan had worked perfectly. Eric was finished professionally, his marriage was over, and his reputation was destroyed. Lila would be facing consequences at work and social exile from our circle of friends. Justice had been served. So why did I feel hollow? I was still pondering that question when I pulled into my driveway and saw Lila's car. She was home early, which probably meant the conversation with her boss hadn't gone well. I found her in the living room, sitting on the couch with a glass of wine and expression I'd never seen before. Not angry, not panicked, something else entirely. "How did it go today?" she asked calmly. "Fine. You?" "I got fired." "I'm sorry to hear that." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Are you really sorry, Owen?" I sat down across from her, studying her face. "Part of me is. The part that remembers loving you. But not the part that planned all this. Not the part that destroyed Eric's career and mine in one afternoon. No, that part feels pretty good about itself." We sat in silence for a moment. Outside, a neighbor was mowing their lawn, the sound ordinary and peaceful. "Can I ask you something?" Lila said finally. "Sure." When did you stop loving me?" The question caught me off guard. I'd expected anger, accusations, threats, not this quiet introspection. "I don't know if I did stop," I said honestly. "I think I stopped loving who you became." "Fair enough." She took a sip of wine. "For what it's worth, I never meant for it to go this far." "Which part? The affair or the lying about it?" "The lying. The affair, that was always going to happen. We've been strangers for months, Owen, living in the same house but completely disconnected. She was right, and that hurt more than the betrayal." "So why not just ask for a divorce?" I asked. "Why the elaborate deception?" "Because I was scared. Of being alone. Of starting over. Of admitting failure." She set down her wine glass. "And because Eric convinced me we could have both. The security of marriage and the excitement of something new. Eric's a user, Lila. You weren't his only affair. I know that now. Karen was very thorough in her email." "Karen emailed you?" "Oh, yes. With a complete dossier on my boyfriend's other activities. Apparently I was just another conquest in his ongoing campaign of self-gratification." The bitterness in her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. "How does it feel?" I asked. "Being used?" "About how you'd expect." She looked at me directly for the first time since I'd come home. "How does it feel getting your revenge?" I considered the question seriously. "Satisfying, but also empty. Like winning a game that nobody should have had to play." "Yeah, that sounds about right." My phone buzzed. A text from Karen. "Eric's moving out tonight. His business partners want a meeting Monday morning. I don't think it's going to go well for him." I showed the message to Lila. She read it without expression. "Good," she said simply. "Good?" "He used both of us, Owen. You for the challenge of stealing your wife. Me for the ego boost of having a secret. Neither of us was real to him. We were just entertainment." I hadn't expected this perspective from her, this clarity. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now? Now we figure out how to untangle 5 years of marriage as cleanly as possible. You get the house. It's in your name anyway. I get my car and whatever dignity I can salvage. And then? And then we both try to learn from this. Try to be better people in our next relationships. She stood up, smoothing down her skirt. I'll pack some things tonight. Stay with Chloe for a while, assuming she still speaks to me after today's revelations. Lila. She paused at the bottom of the stairs. For what it's worth, I hope you find what you're looking for. Thank you. I hope you find someone who deserves the loyalty you showed me, even after I stopped deserving it. She went upstairs to pack, and I sat alone in the living room, listening to the sounds of my marriage ending. Drawers opening and closing, hangers scraping against closet rods, the soft thud of items being placed in suitcases. An hour later, she came back down with 2 bags and her laptop case. I'll get the rest this weekend when you're not here. Take whatever you need. She paused at the door, keys in hand. Owen, what you did today, it was ruthless. But it wasn't cruel. Thank you for that. What's the difference? Ruthless gets justice. Cruel just gets pain. She left without looking back. I sat in the quiet house, surrounded by the remnants of a life that no longer existed, and realized something important. I didn't feel like a winner. I didn't feel like a loser either. I felt like someone who'd learned a hard lesson about trust, consequences, and the price of deception. Outside, the neighbor finished mowing their lawn. The evening settled into peaceful silence, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe.